Take now your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and offer him on a mountain I will show you.
What if the story of Abraham and Isaac wasn't just about a test of faith? What if it was actually a prophetic preview of the greatest sacrifice the world would ever witness? Before we begin, I encourage you to stay with me until the end of this video. What you're about to hear isn't just another Bible story. It's a revelation, an encounter that could forever change how you see the scriptures. Before Abraham became known as the father of faith, he wasn't the towering figure of spiritual strength and unwavering belief we often imagine. He wasn't always the patriarch who stood as a beacon of faith, trust, and obedience. In fact, his beginnings were far more humble, even seemingly unremarkable. Imagine ancient Ur, a bustling city on the banks of the Euphrates, filled with towering ziggurats, the smoke of sacrifices, and the constant murmur of prayers to countless gods. This was the world into which Abram, later to be known as Abraham, was born. He was the son of Terah, a man whose household, like the rest of his people, was steeped in the rituals and superstitions of idol worship. Ur was a place where the gods were many, and the divine was often imagined as distant, demanding, and unpredictable. Abram's early years would have been shaped by these influences, surrounded by carved statues, sacred fires, and the constant fear of appeasing the divine to secure blessings or avert disaster. But something set Abram apart. Even in the midst of this spiritual chaos, where men bowed to lifeless idols of stone and metal, Abram began to hear a different voice. A voice that called not for ritual, but for relationship. This voice didn't demand empty sacrifices or fear-driven devotion. Instead, it called for faith, for a life that looked beyond the seen to the unseen, a life anchored in promise, not fear. Abram somehow sensed that there was a greater reality, a single, living God, beyond the many lifeless figures his people worshipped. He believed the message that God preached to him, long before the law was given or the cross was raised. And Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. Romans 4, verse 3, Genesis 15, verse 6. Pause for a moment. God preached the gospel to Abraham, and Abraham believed. That faith marked him as righteous, long before the written law or the crucifixion. This wasn't just about obedience or rituals. It was about faith in the coming Christ, the promised seed. After the long, impossible wait, Isaac, the child of promise, finally came. Then, the unthinkable happened. God asked Abraham to sacrifice the very child he had waited for his whole life. This is where the story truly begins. Genesis 22 records God's call to Abraham. Take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and offer him on a mountain I will show you. But wait, Ishmael wasn't also Abraham's son? Why was Isaac referred to as your only son, whom you love? Yes, but Isaac was different. Isaac wasn't just a child. He was a symbol, a typology, a prophetic picture of Jesus Christ. Galatians 4:22-24 clarifies this. For it is written that Abraham had two sons, one by a slave woman and one by a free woman. The son of the slave was born according to the flesh, while the son of the free woman was born through promise. These women represent two covenants. When God said, "Take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love," does that sound familiar? It echoes one of the most famous verses in the New Testament. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. John 3, verse 16. What happened on that mountain wasn't just a dramatic test of faith. It was a prophetic shadow of the greatest act of love the world would ever know. When Isaac carried the wood up the mountain, he unknowingly mirrored the Messiah, who would carry a wooden cross up another hill centuries later. Isaac didn't resist, just as Jesus would later say, "Not my will, but yours be done." But then God stopped Abraham. "Do not lay a hand on the boy." A ram appeared in the thicket, a substitute. Thousands of years later, on another mountain not far from Moriah, God would not hold back his own son. Jesus was the lamb, the substitute for us all. Abraham didn't just pass a test, he lived out a prophecy. Isaac was meant to die, but in his place, a lamb was sacrificed. Just as we were destined for death, but Jesus died in our place. This is the hidden language of the Old Testament. The letterings conceal him, but the Spirit reveals him. For the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Revelations 19 verse 10. Abraham saw the day of Christ and rejoiced. Will you see it too?